Why does this block of ice never melt into a puddle? It just smokes and vanishes into thin air. Every other ice cube you own has one job: melt into a sad little puddle. This one flat out refuses. Meet dry ice. And the very first lie is right there in the name. Because it isn't ice at all. There is no water in it. Not one drop. It is frozen carbon dioxide. The exact same gas you just breathed out, chilled to a frankly ridiculous minus 78.5 degrees Celsius. That is minus 109 Fahrenheit. And when it warms up, it does something water simply never does. It skips the puddle entirely. Solid, straight to gas. No liquid in between. Scientists call it sublimation. Everyone else calls it magic. But it isn't magic. It's pressure. And to see why, we have to look at the one chart that secretly runs your entire kitchen. The phase diagram. Every substance has one. Pressure climbs up the side, temperature runs along the bottom. And it tells you one thing. At any pressure and temperature, are you a solid, a liquid, or a gas? Right where all three regions meet, there is a single magic dot. The triple point. Here is the trick. For carbon dioxide, that triple point sits at about 5 times the pressure of our whole atmosphere. 5.1, to be exact. Below that pressure, liquid CO₂ simply cannot exist. It is not allowed. And our air? It sits at just 1 atmosphere. Way down here, far below the line where liquid is even an option. So when solid dry ice warms up at normal pressure, it has nowhere to go but straight to gas. It literally has no liquid phase to melt into. Now compare that to plain water. Water's triple point is stupidly low. About 6/1000ths of 1 atmosphere. So at our 1 atmosphere, water sits comfortably in liquid territory. It melts, it puddles, it drips down your arm. And that is the whole secret. Dry ice is the only everyday ice whose triple point is higher than the air around it. Water melts because our pressure allows a puddle. CO₂ can't, so it smokes instead. Which brings us to that smoke. The thick white fog pouring off the block, curling across the floor like a cheap horror movie. Quick question. What do you think it is actually made of? Because it is not the carbon dioxide. CO₂ gas is completely invisible. You cannot see it at all. What you are actually looking at is water. Water vapor from the air around the block, getting flash chilled and condensing into a fog of tiny droplets. It is the exact same thing as your breath on a freezing morning, just cranked up to 11. The dry ice is invisible. The cloud is the room's own humidity, panicking. Okay. So how do you actually make a block of something this absurdly cold? You start with a tank of liquid carbon dioxide. Wait, liquid? Didn't we just say liquid CO₂ can't exist? At 1 atmosphere, no. But crank the pressure sky high, and it stays liquid, quietly, inside a steel tank. Then you open the valve. The liquid rushes out to normal pressure and expands so violently that it flash freezes itself. About half of it turns to CO₂ snow, which gets pressed into the solid blocks and little pellets you can actually buy. This gives it a superpower ordinary ice just doesn't have. It keeps things frozen and leaves zero mess behind. So it ships your frozen food and medical samples, it fogs up concert stages, and blasts it as tiny pellets, it even scrubs grime off machines without a single drop of water. But a block that is minus 109 degrees and constantly breathing out gas is not a toy. And this is where dry ice gets genuinely dangerous. Touch it with bare skin, and it doesn't feel wet. It feels like a burn. It freezes your skin on contact. Frostbite in seconds. Gloves, always. Worse. That invisible gas it keeps shedding is heavier than air. In a closed car or a small room, it quietly sinks to the floor and pushes the oxygen up and out. No smell. No warning. And whatever you do, never seal it in a bottle. The dry ice keeps sublimating, keeps making gas, with nowhere to go. Pressure climbs and climbs until the container simply explodes. This is not a party trick. So there is the whole story. Dry ice never melts because our air pressure is too low to let liquid CO₂ exist at all. It doesn't melt. It sublimates. The fog isn't the gas, it's water. And the dry in dry ice means exactly what it says. No liquid, no puddle, ever. It's the one ice in your entire world that turns to smoke instead of water, purely because of where a single dot sits on a chart. If a lump of frozen air just made you look at your freezer a little differently, subscribe. We answer the questions you never thought to ask.